It's disobedience and the whole BBTI and BBT that Srila Prabhupada created, from becoming a trust to a corporation, how they changed the whole thing.
Yeah, well, they took the BBT and made it into BBTI by adding it to the Iskcon corporate structure. The corporate people didn't want to do it. The government didn't want to do it. They said the BBT is not a corporation and it can be added to the Iskcon. Or BBTI can be added to BBT. And they said yes, because we went through some changes, but we didn't want to have to change our logo and stuff like that. So that's why we're doing it.
Yeah, from BBT that was founded and written up by Srila Prabhupada to the BBTI, whatever that means. Why they
BBTI means international.
Oh, okay. BBTI, okay.
And so all the books are stamped to BBTI now.
Right.
But the BBT was supposed to be completely separate. They would get the money, use the money to reprint books, and then they would sell the books to the temples. They're completely isolated, and the temples had no power over the books at all, except they buy them and sell them. But they had no way to control the inventory of the books, the printing of the books, or anything like that. That was all being done by the BBT. So, individual incorporation.
So who's the supreme ruler of BBTI? Jayadvaita Swami and his team? Or Jayadvaita Swami is the...
Well, they are now. Hansaduta weirdly gave up his being the last BBT trustee. See, that whole thing with that BBT court case was preposterous, because the Hansaduta, if they presented the court case right, Hansaduta was still a member, still a lifetime appointee BBT
trustee.
Yes. And yeah, and so there was no need for there to be a lawsuit. He could have said, I'm right and all of you guys are wrong, and he would have won in court.
Right.
Yeah, but didn't he give up the trusteeship to Jayadvaita?
As part of the court case settlement at the end.
Yeah, at the end he got cheated. They created a new entity and made a corporation out of it with directors, and then they voted him out.
He was cheated by his attorney.
Yes.
Gupta.
So Gupta dissolved the BBT trust or something like that, right?
The BBT. What happened is they won the case.
Right.
But Gupta then stole the outcome and stole all the money that was borrowed the Hansaduta had borrowed from one of his
disciples.
Disciples to conduct the case. And he stole about $500,000 and put it in a bank account in the Bahamas.
And then they voted him out from the corporation.
No, Hansaduta didn't put the money there. Gupta did.
No, Gupta did. Then they also made a corporation instead of.
Well, yeah, Krishna Books.
Incorporated, yes, KBI.
Yeah, but that was part of Hansaduta's deal too. Basically, creating Krishna Books was the original books only. They had the right, legal right to print the original books. What they didn't realize at that time was that Hansaduta already had the right to print the books. And if he'd used that as a defense, nobody could have stopped him from printing books. But then Gupta was seduced by the BBTI, Iskcon. BBTI, Iskcon, to join them. Very unethical, particularly in the middle of a lawsuit. Gupta quickly settled up the lawsuit, so that he could join the GBC's legal team.
Yeah, he double-crossed Hansaduta a couple of times.
Yeah, no kidding. I warned Hansaduta that he would do it.
It seems like Hansaduta was compromising, and eventually got cheated at the end.
Well, he trusted, he was one of them, you know.
He was one of them.
And he was kicked out. And most of the reasons he was kicked out for, he was right and they were wrong.
So,
some of them he was wrong. But what happened is that when he got kicked out, and he created Krishna books and they got the original copyright, he traded his right to print the original books to Jayadvaita. And their argument at the time amongst themselves, being somewhat delusional, Gupta cheating and Hansaduta being somewhat delusional, was that they with the Christian books coming out and the original books being printed, all the rest of the BBT would quickly collapse. That was his reasoning.
Whose reasoning?
Hansaduta's.
Hansaduta's reasoning was that so Hansaduta wanted edited books to be distributed.
No. He wanted them to just go on, thinking that once he was in charge, and it might have been if he'd been in charge and not cheated by Gupta and Vedaguya, if he had remained in charge of Krishna books, he figured he could have the power to replant all of Prabhupada's original books globally, and that the changed books wouldn't have a chance. But he never got a chance to actually do that.
So KBI got incorporated. Hansaduta was probably one of the directors on the board.
He was the director.
So there was only one director? How can there be only one director? It doesn't make any sense.
There's only one director, but there are other members of the board.
Okay.
He had about half a dozen trustees.
No, they're not trustees. Actually, these people on the board are not, what's the technical word? They're board members. They're not trustees, are they? Or were they trustees?
Well, they were called trustees, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that's the trustees were when Prabhupada created the BBTI. He had 3 trustees managing it. And then
Prabhupada created the BBT, not the BBTI.
Yes. Prabhupada created the BBT, and then the BBTI was a corporation, and Krishna Books Incorporated was also a corporation, no?
Yeah, Krishna Books, they made it a corporation, and Hansaduta was the head of it, and he had a board of directors.
And then he got voted out, right?
Yeah, then Gupta was on the board, so Gupta somehow arranged for the board of directors to vote Hansaduta out. Then they took it over, then Gupta got rid of all the board of directors, and he ran it by himself.
Very interesting, Hansaduta's situation. You mentioned that Hansaduta was part of them. So what do you mean by Hansaduta was also part of them?
Well, he was an original temple president. He was original GBC. He was original everything. He was one of the great pioneers of the Iskcon movement.
Okay, you meant that, okay.
And then he went to Germany and did spectacularly in Germany. So he always was identifying with these guys that I didn't like, meaning the mainstream Iskcon leadership. I didn't like them because I sensed that they were not nice or honest. But Hansaduta, having come from the middle of a war-torn country in Germany, always had this deep yearning to belong.
I see. So
He,
at the end, he was compromising, and the compromise got him, I guess.
oh yeah.
He compromised so much that they eventually cheated him.
He
Yeah.
didn't accept Prabhupada's poisoning either.
Oh, Hunter, oh, he didn't accept. Oh, I see.
What did you say? What did Rupa say?
I
Oh.
said that Hansaduta didn't accept Srila Prabhupada's poisoning.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Don't you remember?
Yeah, I do. Oh, I remember what he was in favor of is Prabhupada wanted to go on an ox cart to Govardhan, and Hansaduta was in favor of that.
Mm-hmm.
But Tamal absolutely did everything he could to prevent that from happening, which wasn't difficult. Everyone was worried about Prabhupada's health. Why expose him to a bumpy trip in an ox cart to Govardhan? But the reason I'm quite certain the reason Prabhupada wanted to go is that everybody would see he was being poisoned with arsenic. In other words, any common farmer would know what arsenic poison looked like.
Right. Yeah, it's this issue. The book changes. It's a big one. It has divided the movement into two camps.
Well, yes, but this is another issue. I mean, why have they changed the books at all? I mean, book changes, it's almost like this is the standard, but what did they change and why did they change it? And why did they change the book secretly? I mean, what needed to be changed?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, once the books were published, they were supposed to remain as is.
So they keep changing the books. It's like never changing thing.
Well, they lose their authority for sure, and not only that, in scholarly circles, they lose their authority even more so.
Yeah, it's like they keep shooting themselves. Once, twice, first in a leg, then next leg, then it's.
Well, I don't think they wanted the books to be accepted in academic circles.
Oh, why not? In this way, they would have had more sales, more propagation of the books. I mean,
well,
right?
if they had accepted the direction of management, we would have had thousands of more temples.
Right.
So they wanted money and power. Better to control something small that you can control completely than something that's bigger. So what would happen if the books were in the all the universities, and everybody was going crazy over them and wanted to read them and study them?
Also, they would want to join a Kanishta program or start one or be part of it.
They would be worshiping Prabhupada.
They'd be worshiping Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, he's the author.
Right.
They would anyone hear people worshiping the printer that printed Shakespeare's plays?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you don't know who printed his plays, who knows? But Shakespeare, everybody knows. So you get. So if Srila Prabhupada were world famous author in such a way that his books were universally accepted, then another problem. How could the temples sell the books? The publishing houses would sell the books. They get the royalties, but they wouldn't have control.
What do you mean? The BBT, aren't they holding the BBTI, aren't they holding the copyrights of Prabhupada's books? So they would be printing and then they would be the publishers, no?
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. I keep thinking at different times because at different times there were, like, Macmillan published the Gita,
Oh, yes. At that time, yes, Macmillan did. Then the copyrights came back to the BBT, right?
Yeah. But doesn't it strike as though if the books are, they were just interested in selling the books on the streets as a business. If the books became famous, then it would be a whole different ballgame. Of course, they would get royalties. They would get paid for distributing the books. But I think they liked what they were doing better, more profitable, but more importantly, it gave them more control.
So you're saying
money and power.
So you're saying whatever little money and power they had, they wanted to contain that in their hands, and they didn't want it to grow and grow. That's why they keep editing the books and removing Srila Prabhupada as an author.
Yeah. And also they have a sociological reason for changing the books. Like Dravida wants to take out everything about women, black people, anything that doesn't completely woke, they want to take it out.
Okay, I see. You mentioned Dravida's name, and is Jayad waiting for this to remove anything about gays, women, blacks, people?
They work together, but Jayadvaita is, I think, in a different. He's not so much into editing as he is doing the background scholarship. They could have done a great service by what they're doing if they had chosen to. Anytime you have a famous writer and you find errors in the way his books were transcribed from tape, that's an amazing good thing.
Right.
As long as the proper procedures followed. But they didn't. They didn't follow the proper procedure for editing by, as I've said, putting footnotes and appendices in the book to explain anything that was changed. So you keep the authenticity of the original book and improve it by finding any factual errors that were present in the pages. But then you get into Dravida's scheme, which is to change the intention of the book and to make it more modern and to make it more acceptable to the critical race theory people,
More politically correct.
Yeah.
This is.
There's no good part to it. They had a chance to do something good and they failed miserably. It was only much later, decades later, that they began to put in the credits for the people that were doing the book editing.
What do you mean? Can you?
At the end of the book, in small type, they put in that some changes were made by such and such people.
I don't think it's there in the books right now. If I were to buy a BBTI version of Bhagavad Gita as it is with the yellow version, I don't think that information is there.
Did you look at the very back?
I have the book here. Let me see if there's anything like that. 1 second.
I've seen it. I think it was the Bhagavatam, not the Gita, but.
Maybe the Bhagavatam. Yes, the Bhagavatam, it says that these are done by these disciples, blah, 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 blah. Right.
Yeah.
Not the Gita.
Not the Gita. But they did reprint the blue or purple Gita with Vishnu on the cover.
Blue or purple Gita? I don't think. When?
The 1969 version.
They reprinted it? Why?
Well, I don't know who did the reprinting. Maybe KBI did. Well, they reprinted it because it was out of print. But Prabhupada said not to read it because the editor, Ray Rama, added Mayavada conclusions.
Yeah. So many instructions were disobeyed because Prabhupada originally approved the 1972 and he made that the standard. Right.
Yeah.
As it
that
is.
Was the one, the Macmillan one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
you do it and you keep it. That's all. That's the only solution. But it doesn't matter because as time goes on, and with the work of the League for 10K, all of this stuff will get sorted out eventually. hopefully in our lifetime.
Right. So anyone
Hopefully
who's
in my
watching,
lifetime,
Mhm.
but then maybe hopefully in yours.
Yes. People who are watching this online on Facebook and YouTube, if you'd like to join our WhatsApp conversation or Zoom conversation, there's a link in the description, so you can click on that and come in the Zoom.
Well, it's
Join
time
the,
for us to go onto the Zoom call anyhow right now, isn't it?
yeah, I can post the link there and they can join. So
It's 10 after 8,
yes. So
5 after 8.
Rupa Manjari Prabhu, do you want to make any statements regarding the book changes or any realizations over the years you have had about this issue? Any points?
Well, it's I think it's the point has been made that Srila Prabhupada's books should be kept as he expressly wrote them and approved. He approved some editing by Hayagriva, but that was, then it was done, and then the 72 version was printed.
Oh, the real point to the editing was to put it into Western collegiate language so that it could be read by scholars. That's why Prabhupada went for that. And the reason why they changed Krishna to KRSNA and stuff like that was the way Harvard did it. And the Harvard art scholar, Pradumna, suggested to Prabhupada that they did it. I didn't like it in 1969. I was there outside the room. I wasn't in the room, but I was outside the room and got the up-to-date comments coming out. I didn't like the idea they were doing that. I felt it made it a little too esoteric, but actually it was better because otherwise Prabhupada's books would be confused with the millions and millions of other Gitas and whatnot that are floating around being published by people with KRISHNA.
Interesting.
But the bigger point, I think, is that Prabhupada, this is for Krishna Balaram Swami critiques, is that Prabhupada, having his Western educated devotees, like Hayagriva specifically, editing his books meant that his content was still getting through. Whatever he wanted said was still getting through. And it was being put into a language that the average Joe could read.
What are you saying? According to Krishna Balaram Swami, Hayagriva was a professor in English language. So what was the deficiency in Prabhupada's erudition and Hayagriva's erudition?
That's just Krishna Balaram Swami's attempt to create a distinction between himself and Iskcon books.
Okay.
His books and Iskcon's books.
So it's a political stance that he's taking.
Yeah, it's a political, socio-economic, whatever you want to call it. He's just trying to establish himself as a higher authority because not only he's translating, but he's doing it properly and doesn't need Westerners to tamper with it. What he's missing out with is that the Westerners, so-called tampering with it, created a possibility for these books to be read as they have been globally. Because they're written out in a way which the average man can read it.
Right. Yeah.
So this whole thing about getting some special reading, some special guru, some special blessing, some special treatment is pointless. If you want to know what to do, Prabhupada said, and I emphasize this, Prabhupada said that the only real reason for people to read his books, outside of the entertainment value of Krishna on the battlefield with Arjuna, with Krishna stealing butter and giving it to monkeys, and stuff like that, and Lord Chaitanya's amazing interactions with other residents of Krishna Loka that so happen to show up to create a drama in Bengal, it was all an act, But I don't mean it was a fake act. It was an act in the sense that they brought their issues. When I say issues, the residents of Krishna Loka, the highest level of gopis, all have dialogue things going on, arguing this way and that way in Krishna Loka. Now, it's not negative. It's not like human arguments. These are very highly esoteric rasas. And they brought them down here and discussed them as the six Goswamis. The same personalities, the same gopis came here as six Goswamis and discussed the same topics. I remember there was one passage from some Gaudiya book that where I read that maybe Sanatana Goswami came in and saw that Jiva Goswami had put some sort of parchment, not a parchment, but palm leaf document in the rafter, and he took it down, and it was part of his discussion with Rupa Goswami and Jiva Goswami and all that in the spiritual world. Not Goswami, but the gopis in the spiritual world. They were continuing it all here in Chaitanya pastimes. But having said all of that, and for all of the fun and pleasure and knowledge and erudition that we can get by reading Prabhupada's books, he said that the whole purpose in reading his books was to understand why to chant Hare Krishna. So you don't have to read his books, just chant Hare Krishna. That's the bottom line. But the books are there and they're well worth reading.
Hmm.
But Hansaduta, since we're speaking of Hansaduta, after he so-called fell down from the status of guru, he was there with a bunch of gurus. This is what I'm saying, he was an insider. He's with all the people he used to hang out with who were gurus, right?
Yeah, at that time, most of them were still present.
Yeah. Well, this is back in
90s,
1980s.
huh? Right, 1980s, right.
Yeah, in the 80s, around 86, that's when Sulochan was killed. So maybe 85, 86 that time. And what happened is that because he was one of the old boys, this is the thing about the Iskcon gurus, is it wasn't so much about spreading Krishna consciousness and theology, it was about being one of the good old boys. And you might say, well, what did the good old boys do? Well, they printed their own versions of books and they competed like that. It was very much more like football game mentality than it was theology.
Yeah, who's the biggest guru of them all, right?
Yeah. So this guru asked Hansaduta, this disciple wants to take the Brahmin initiation.
Mm.
and he wants to know what is required from him to do that. And so I wonder what your viewpoint is, the guru says to Hansaduta. And Hansaduta said, well, he should read first, before becoming second initiation, he should read all of Prabhupada's books.
Mm.
And the guru started choking and sat forward and said, but I haven't read all of Prabhupada's books. So you see, what is the point of reading the books if the gurus don't even read them?
I mean, forget reading about him. They can't even understand, verses like the Nectar of Instruction, verse 5, where it says that only an Uttamadhikari can be a spiritual master.
Exactly. So what they did in the end was they just had people going through the books. There were scholars. What's that guy in Philadelphia? Is it
Ravindra Sarup.
Ravindra Sarup, yeah. They would get someone like Ravindra Sarup to do a study because he had an intellect or something that he advertised as an intellect.
Mm-hmm.
And he would go through and find all the answers, and they would publish it as their opinion.
Ah, I see. I see. So okay, yes, makes sense.
So they didn't need to read the books. They could have all the authority of esoteric reading by simply getting Rabindra Swarup to do it for them.
Yeah, so whatever conclusion they want to draw out of it, like where Prabhupada says that, oh, anyone can be a guru, everyone should be a guru, they use this for their own personal
Yeah,
sense
and
gratification.
but interestingly, they have not done their own research for the most part.
Yes, yes.
It's all
Yes.
second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth hand.
Yeah, exactly. This the
So the situation here, like, what do they think about the direction of management? Oh, they only go by what was said. What was said about what was said about what was said about what was said 30, 40 years ago.
right, right.
So what we're doing is we're opening up the package right now and saying, this is what is going on. That's what that paper that I started. You see, there's going to be about 5 or 6 papers pertaining to the direction of management, because we're approaching it from different angles.
Right, yes, right.
One of the main angles is I'm trying to create a romantic sounding picture of what would have Iskcon been like if the direction of management had been there. You know, what would the GBCs have been doing? Oh, they would go to a small temple, they'd cut them coordinated with another small temple 10 miles away, and then they would start doing programs of different sorts. They would get the Hindus involved in coordinating business between the temples and the public, et cetera, you know, all sorts of cooperative ventures of intermixing, not interbreeding, but sort of creating hybrid acquaintances, which would then lead to more temples opening. So the whole idea of the GBC was that they would be rushing around helping new temples get off the ground during the Hare Krishna explosion. You realize that, what was the date that Prabhupada started the incorporated Iskcon?
In 1966, let me see, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, the month.
All right, legal documents, funding, direction of management, let's see. Okay, July 13th, 1966.
July.
Yes. Here we go. Here's the date.
It is more than 6 months.
Yeah, July 13th, 1966.
Yeah, it's 7 months, 7.5 months from 1966 to 1966. And then he created the direction of management. It was that also July, wasn't it? Or June?
Yes, July 28th, 1970.
So in exactly 4 years,
Right.
he had opened, the Hare Krishna explosion had opened 34 temples in 4 years.
Yes, direction of management states the different, centers.
Doesn't say 34 temples?
Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, 34 temples, you're right.
In 4 years.
Yeah, in 4 years, he opened 33 temples. 34, yeah.
Well, he's 33 besides the one on 28 Second Avenue.
Right.
Yeah, and the temples were not just nothing but nothings. They had beautiful, they had Vyasasans, deities, paintings, They were set up for people to come and experience something very nice. Can you imagine such a short period of time? So that's what the direction of management intended, was to continue that Hare Krishna explosion going. But you see, the downside to exploding the Hare Krishna society, having the temples exploding, was that how do you control the money? Each temple is controlling its own money.
Yeah, that question was asked by this devotee here. I want to share the screen with you. Is it here? No, 1 second. He asked the question, how can the GBC overtake all the finances and squash anyone who contests? See here?
Well, yeah. Well, that's what that paper I'm writing gets. The papers that I'm getting into, so far I'm looking to, get into exactly explain. They saw that the GBC, the way structured, gave them essentially less than no power. The power was the power of preaching, the power of bhakti, the power of distribution of the kirtan, the holy name, prasadam. That was wide open. But in terms of controlling money and power, it wasn't there with the direction of management.
What do you mean?
Well, where was the power? If a guy's elected to be GBC, where does he get power?
Well, he can be a temple president or temple president of the local congregation, and he would be.
He is, and he doesn't even have to leave the temple necessarily.
Right.
He could stay in the temple, be GBC, and then just go away for extended periods of time.
Right.
For doing different things.
Right.
But if he's a GBC and they're opening up temples within 50 miles of where he is, he can just drive all around to the different temples that are opening and come back in time for dinner, you know?
Right. Yes.
But where's the money?
Where is
the control? Where's the power? Basically none. No money, no power. Whereas the BBT trustees had all the money and all the power.
Yeah, and there were only, what, a couple of them, 2 or 3 of them. That's it.
Yeah, there were supposed to be as many, I think, as 5 or 10, but Prabhupada never had that many.
Yeah, yeah. It was very, Prabhupada was expert in his management.
Yeah, but nobody was willing to do it because everybody would rather have money and power. Look at Bhagavan. He would rather have his own organization with his own money and power than to open up millions of temples and share the wealth, you know. He wanted to become guru. He became a guru and then he was opening up temples under his own name.
Who was doing that?
Bhagavan.
Oh, Bhagavan was doing? Oh, wow.
They all were.
Oh, wow.
But like Rameshwar never did. Rameshwar was in charge of what? Laguna Beach. Sort of in control of Laguna Beach and Los Angeles. End of story. And maybe what, Berkeley or San Francisco also.
Right.
But they didn't do anything. There was no more Hare Krishna explosion. San Francisco at one time had 3 temples.
Wow. San Francisco. Wow. 3 temples.
Yeah. Well, they had the one on Frederick Street. Then they gave that up. Unfortunately, they should have kept it. And then they went down to Valencia Boulevard, which is a big funeral parlor. And they had a lot of devotees there. And then they opened another one on Cole Street, which was not far from the UC hospital. And then some other devotee opened one up sort of around the corner from that temple in a house. And sannyasi opened up a temple. It was sort of like semi-Iskcon temple. He was sort of a renegade, but they were not very strict on him. It was a nice temple.
So the temple in San Francisco, I mean, not Berkeley right now, that is the last one, right? Meaning the Berkeley, Iskcon Berkeley. That was the last temple that they found and kept.
Well, not exactly, because they basically, wait a second, how does that work? It's all based on the deities. Where did the Berkeley deities come from? They weren't from San Francisco.
New York?
No, they must have been from the earlier Berkeley temple. I forgot.
Okay.
But
We'll have to ask Hansaduda.
Yeah.
Prabhu. Hansaduda Prabhu. Yes.
You know what? San Francisco still, oh, there is no San Francisco temple, is there?
No, Berkeley. I was talking about Berkeley. I'm saying Berkeley.
No, the Berkeley deities are the San Francisco deities.
Okay, got it.
The ones that were carved by Shyama
Ah, okay. Uh-huh. Right. Anyways, we have, let's move on with the discussion. We got Mohit Prabhu and Bangladesh SPK.
Joy. So you handled, I like the way we did last time. You take care of everything, and if somebody wants me to make an additional comment, I'll be glad to do it.
Hare
Okay.
Krishna, Jai. Hare Krishna.
Mahid, Haribol.
Hare Hare.
There's a question in the chat by Bangladesh SPK. He writes a question, and it's addressed to Narayan Prabhu, but anyone can answer this question. I have a doubt to His Grace Narayan Prabhuji. What's the authorized biography of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada? Is Lilamrita fine, written by Satsarup Das?
Who wants to answer that one?
You answer it.
Go ahead, Narayan Prabhu. You can answer and we can input after you answer.
In my humble opinion, the Lilamrita was written very, very shortly after the gurus, the new gurus, 5 gurus, whatever they were, 12 gurus?
11, 12 gurus, yeah, the bogus gurus.
11 gurus assumed power. And Satsarup wrote acquired people to go and interview people with tape recorders. They did 4 hours of interviews of me, which was interesting. But they interviewed everybody. They did a huge project of interviewing. And so when the book came out, I was assuming, since I'd played a rather strong role in the early days of the movement, that I'd be mentioned. But not only I was not mentioned, I'm not saying this out of being peeved, but just to give a sense of that I had a contextual reason to be interested, that not only I was barely mentioned, but anytime I was at a place and described it, and it was something I was doing, they would have one of the gurus describe it instead. Like when we talked about Rath Yatra 1970, that was a major, major thing. The only person they really had talking about it was Tamal, who didn't go there. He was in Los Angeles during that time. So you see, they set it up so that the gurus would be doing the Lilamrita. So it was not good. I started reading it, and then I just in the very first part of it, they didn't even give Prabhupada his name, but they called him Abhay Charan, which I suppose they felt was more accurate from the scholarly point of view. Then Abhay walked down, not even Abhay Charan, Abhay walked down the road and he saw a dog, and he was looking at the dog suffering, with swords on his body, and he was thinking, I said, what the heck is going on here? How did Satsvarup have any idea what was going through Srila Prabhupada's head when he walks down an imaginary road before he was even a devotee and seeing a dog? So that was very disturbing. And I just checked a few more places, but I didn't want to read it because I felt that it was largely extremely tilted, bogus, and fictional, which is too bad. So knowing how many tapes he had made, knowing how much work had gone into the Lilamrita and money, I happened to, he came in a sort of a weird house trailer filled with office desks and office chairs. Anyhow, somebody rushed into the Berkeley Temple, big happy smile, saying, "Oh, Narayana, you will be so pleased. Your godbrother Satsvarup is out there in the parking lot. Do you want to come out and say hi to your godbrother and offer him your obeisances, etc., and catch up on old times," or whatever it was you're supposed to do? I said, yes, I think I would like to go out and say hi to Satsvarup Das Sannyas. So I went out there, and I came in I had a lot on my mind because I was so horrified by the Lilamrita. I came on board his bus, went up the little steps at the front to his house trailer, I should say, and there he was sitting behind a desk. He looks at me, and in his strangely, slightly evasive way of speaking, he said, "Oh, I see you have come because of the Lilamrita." I hadn't said anything. I was actually not trying to talk about it. I wanted to say hi and see what he was going to say about stuff about the Lilamrita, but I didn't come there to attack him. But when he said, "I see you've come about the Lilamrita," I looked at him steadily and I said, "Oh, I see. There are many have come before me, haven't they?" about issues with the Lilamrita. He didn't reply. So I sat down, we talked a bit. And then I said, "Well, Satsvarup, Maharaj, I have to be totally candid, I think the Lilamrita did not do justice to the amount of research that went into getting it. There were so many fantastic accounts on tape at which you transcribed. I would have imagined that there would be huge volumes of information and it never made it into your Lilamrita." I said, so I will say, as I was getting ready to leave, I will say that the good part to all of this is that at some point, perhaps when you are no longer with us, that the tapes and the transcripts can be obtained, and a real account of Srila Prabhupada's history and work as a pure devotee can be, collated and printed up as a real Lilamrita. Satsvarup all this time was sitting lower and lower in his chair. He's kind of sort of a, what is that guy's name? That guy, the guy, Pinhead, sort of a Pinhead look. There was a Iggy the Pinhead or some sort of cartoon figure. But anyhow, he kept on slipping down further and further in his chair until his jaw was almost equal to the desk, which was weird. And I looked at him, I said, "So that is my benediction, that you've done a wonderful job by doing the research for the Lilamrita. And someday, somebody who doesn't have an axe to grind and a profit to make or whatever will write the real Lilamrita, perhaps in 50 or 100 years when all the smoke is cleared." And I looked at the Satsvarup, and his eyes had become huge and almost death-like, and his nose had come down close to the top of the desk. I'm not exaggerating. Really, I'm not.
Wow.
And so I looked at him, and he sat up a bit more. I said, "You do have the tapes and the transcripts, don't you?" I said, the way I said it now, it's a tiny fraction of the way I said it to him. It wasn't a roar, but it was damned intense. And he looked at me and started stuttering. He said, well, the Prabhus, meaning his disciples, put them in a shed out in the field. Yeah. And the shed burned down. Can you imagine?
Wow.
That most valuable information. Put it in a shed, and the shed burned down. So I stood up, restraining myself from going to jail for murder by backing out the door. I said, so, I said to him, I see you have taken the precaution that you will be the only biographer of Srila Prabhupada.
Hmm.
And that was the last I ever talked to Satsvarup.
So they did years and years worth of research, and they purposefully or not purposefully destroyed it, it seems. They only had...
I don't think they destroyed it on purpose, but like if you compare Satsvarup to the archives, this is the Gita Nagri that they burned down. If you compare Satsvarup to the archives have everything on practically indestructible media stored in a mountain cave. So even if there's an atomic war, they won't lose Prabhupada's direct sound vibration of speech.
Right.
And Satsvarup had reel-to-reel tapes,
Right.
you know,
Right.
regular old-fashioned 8-inch tapes or whatever they were, 10-inch tapes, and papers, no copies apparently. It was all put in a shed, and the shed burned down. Now, whether when Satsvarup got under fire, his disciples burned it down as a favor to Satsvarupa or to try to destroy Satsvarup's reputation or whatever is up for grabs. All I know is the Prabhus, meaning his disciples, put him in a shed and it burned down.
How long was the research that the God brothers did to for the Lilamrita? Was it a couple of years? I know they went around and talked to all of Prabhupada's God brothers, I think, and disciples and family members or whatever. All this is lost, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, and well, apparently everything that was there was lost. A couple of years, I think it was like 2, maybe 3 years at the most.
Wow.
But you see, they wanted it out fast to support themselves, who were rapidly falling down right and left already, the gurus, that to support the selection by Prabhupada of the gurus by making them the featured speakers in the Lilamrita.
Okay, so they strategically did it fast to promote themselves as so-called gurus.
Yeah, exactly. And the accounts of the gurus, you see, the gurus are so busy being in charge of things that they didn't necessarily know what was going on. Besides the palace intrigues of who was ratting on who and who was having sex with who and which guru was doing this, which guru was doing that. They knew all of that because their own lives were on the line. But in terms of knowing what was going on in the movement, they just, like Tamal, he'd be in charge of saying, when I did things, I was maybe number 3, 4 down the line from Tamal. I was technically answerable to Tamal, but I wasn't the temple president of San Francisco. I wasn't the temple president of Los Angeles. So he didn't know. So when he wrote about the Lilamrita, in the Lilamrita, when it writes about 1970 Rath Yatra, it's completely tame and tasteless and useless and very, very, very inaccurate in a million different ways.
Okay, so many of what is written in the Lilamrita in the past times you were involved in, it's inaccurate. Okay, I just want to put it out there.
Well, I have seen passages from the Lilamrita that apparently are more accurate, but you know, I wanted to see what I wanted to see. But there's he put out two types of little tiny red books called Prabhupada's Drops of Nectar, and then there was another one. But the one Drops of Nectar, no, we're not Prabhupada's, Drops of Nectar about Prabhupada, and then things that Prabhupada said that were Drops of Nectar. But the ones he wrote, it could have been called Drops of Poison, because he wrote things that were horrible about his godbrothers that made some statement, and he wanted to be sure it got into print.
What did you say? Prabhupada saying some statements about his godbrothers and Satsarup made it public? Like, really?
No. I'm just saying, no, sorry. That he made these little drops of nectar. Let's see if I have one of these books here.
So is Bala Bangladesh Prabhu getting his answer of what Narayan Prabhu thinks of his Lilamrita? So maybe he can.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing, you know, you have someone like Jayadvaita, who, as far as I know, unless he caught up later, which I doubt if he did, never graduated even from high school, doing editing, because he didn't like Hayagriva, who had a PhD in English literature, doing the editing. All Prabhupada wanted was for his books not to sound, I love Prabhupada's original books, meaning the ones that he brought from India on the boat. When I ever read the first canto, those are the ones I like to read. Not because Prabhupada wanted those to be the popular book, but because of the language, the way it was written, so elegantly, and interesting typos made by the printer and stuff like that, with handset type. These things I found so endearing because it was so intimately Prabhupada. But Prabhupada didn't want it to be intimately Prabhupada. He wanted it to be scholarly. And Satsarup made it scholarly. By the way, I found one Prabhupada Nectar book.
What's the title? We can't see it.
Oh, how can we see it?
Because your background is, it's a red book. Okay, we see it. Okay.
It's a very tiny red book.
Okay. Prabhupada Nectar, Volume 1. Okay. I see.
Yeah, it's very small. It's like 3 inches by 4 inches.
Can you see when it was published and who published it? So we get a reference. First page.
Look.
Yes.
It was printed by Gitanagri Press, Washington, D.C.
What year?
Originally 3,000 copies.
Does it say when it was published? 1990? What does it say?
No. Oh, that's a good question. 1985.
Oh, wow. That's the year I was born, 1985. Wow, a long time ago. So the research was done prior to 1985 then, right?
1985.
Okay, so that book you have in your hand, published in 1985, it has transcripts of the audio transcription and audio of the Lilamrita interviews?
Yeah. I never read it because I was so disgusted I just couldn't bring myself.
Huh.
But I could, you want me to read you a little passage? It'll be the first time I've read it before, ever.
Sure, yes.
Okay.
I guess that Bangladeshi
Here's a little anecdote called Prabhupada's Prasadam.
Okay.
Palika Devi Dasi was Bhavananda's wife.
Oh.
It's funny, Bhavananda, a homosexual, is what he married a lesbian.
Bhavananda had a wife. That was a female, huh? That's interesting.
She was a female wife, yeah. She was a lesbian from a motorcycle gang of lesbian motorcycle girls. And he was a homosexual.
Haribol, just
And
clarify, he's given a book link
No.
in the description. Is
In
that
the
the same
book
book?
description, he has that book was published in 1995. The one Narayan Prabhu has
85.
Yes, the one Narayan
Okay.
Prabhu has is with the red cover, and it was published in 1985.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. So anyhow, they got married at the Henry Street Temple in New York in, I think, probably 1970 or something like that. And so there were so many rooms there that belonged to an order of nuns called the Little Sisters of the Poor, who are actually quite good nuns, do good stuff. And they had their bedroom, and they went in there, and all the devotees were sort of like hovering around, wondering what they were going to do on their wedding night, Finally, not hearing any noises, they came back in the morning, and they came out, and they said, well, how was it? They said to Bhavananda.
Mhm.
He said, well, we talked and talked and talked, and then we decided that for the sake of our spiritual life, we were not going to consummate our marriage. But that was before anybody knew that Bhavananda was gay. That was before anybody knew that Palika was a lesbian.
Gay and lesbian get together, huh? And they decide.
Very interesting. Very
Okay, anyhow, but I'm sorry, but I hope I'm not disgusting everybody. But here is, I just picked up randomly, Palika Devi Dasi, that was Bhavananda's wife. I think this is after they were married for sure. Cooked regularly for Srila Prabhupada, and she recalls his favorite preparations. A first favorite for Srila Prabhupada was always kachuris, especially urdal kachuris. In sweets, he liked sandesh and rasgullas. Also, he liked a good hot jalebi. With every meal,
Jalebi. Haribol.
We called them sweet balls. With every meal, there had to be a bitter vegetable made with Kerala or neem leaves. He liked neem bagan very much, a preparation mentioned in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Prabhupada loved urdal, and he taught me to make it with fennel, ginger, and asafoetida. All these must be in the chants. Actually, Srila Prabhupada enjoyed a wide variety of foods. Once for weeks, he would have khichdi daily with vegetables in it with lots of ghee, along with hot puris and baigan bhaji, deep fried eggplant. That and nothing else. I would put the khichdi in his big rice bowl, and sometimes he would ask for seconds. If Srila Prabhupada was hungry in the evening, he would take different things according to his taste. Many times the ghee vegetable and puris with hot milk. In the milk, I would generally use mishri, sugar candy or rock candy, rather than sugar. Sometimes he wanted milk only or only a tangerine. Often he would have muri, puffed rice with peanuts and milk. I remember a few times he would request me to leave a dish or two of sandesh on the bookshelf in case he became hungry while translating in the night. But always, except for once or twice, the sandesh would still be there in the morning. Also, for months, Srila Prabhupada had me prepare vada and coconut chutney for breakfast and dahi vada for lunch. He liked these preparations, and he remarked on them often. He had yogurt with his lunch daily, and as time passed, it became a rule So whenever there was Kitri, there must be Kadi. Anyhow, those are nice pastimes described, but these were Prabhupada nectar. What he wrote that was about devotees, very ugly, insulting stuff, was called Little Drops of Nectar. And he just picked out all the most embarrassing, disgusting, and not nice things he could find about devotees that he knew and put it in the books called Little Drops of Nectar.
So I'd like to make a suggestion. He asks a further question here. He says, okay, sad to hear this. Then what book can we refer to? Please suggest any authorized book of His Divine Grace Biography, Prabhuji. So, you see what he's saying? He's sad to hear what has happened with the Lilamrita and how things, but he's looking for an authorized biography of Srila Prabhupada. Any suggestions?
You can read, there's many volumes of the Lilamrita, and you can read through them and find many different activities and historic facts about Srila Prabhupada. It's just that I balked when I saw that he didn't report about things about Prabhupada's disciples well. I'm sure he must have some fairly good authorized statements regarding Prabhupada's early life. So I don't want to make it sound all bad, but to me, I have a degree in English literature, and once a book is tainted, I don't go back to it for any reason. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't. It just means that's my picky nature as a English literature scholar.
Okay. Another suggestion to Bangladesh Prabhu is that Prabhupada talks about certain things about his life. So if you go through the Bhaktivedanta archives and the audio, meaning where Prabhupada is speaking about his younger childhood, this and that, so he speaks about these things in certain conversations. So if you want to hear it directly from Srila Prabhupada, that is there, but that you'll have to dig in the Bhaktivedanta archive audio.
But out of kindness, let me mention the power of Srila Prabhupada was not the anecdotal archive of his life. It was what he did spiritually. That he was married was nice. That he had children was nice. That he wore a mustache, had a combed his hair to the side, and owned two big pharmaceutical companies was nice. But that's not why we worship him. We worship him because when he came to Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he tried to convince Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur of the cause of Gandhi's cause. And Bhaktisiddhanta was able to demolish his argument. And after that time, Prabhupada gave up Gandhi altogether. And then, and actually Prabhupada became a great fan of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, who was the real deliverer of India, not Gandhi. So I don't know, maybe you're big Gandhi fans, but Prabhupada wrote a lot of stuff, gave an amazing lecture on Gandhi, on Mahatma Gandhi, where he made it ripped for an hour. He ripped Gandhi to shreds, and particularly that he had no business to being called Mahatma. He wasn't a Mahatma, nor did anyone designate him a Mahatma in his entire life. He got the title Mahatma because of people's ignorance, thinking that Mohan Das, the servant of the deity, Krishna deity Mohan, was Mahatma, not Mohan. So that was something that Prabhupada also made clear. But I would say, read what you can of what Prabhupada writes. I agree with Ramachandra. Anyhow, I'm taking up a lot of time.
There's also Siddhanta's memories.
Yes. Go ahead, describe.
Well, they're just many pastimes that narrated by Prabhupada's disciples And some of those include stories of Prabhupada's life.
As told by Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Anyhow, very good. So I do apologize to the Prabhu who wanted to know about the Leela. Actually, I should probably not have been so openly critical, but at the same time, for me, it's a touchy subject. And I knew Satsvarup from 1968 onward, and I watched him go through all of the situations that led to his imagining himself to be a guru. And these are the things which I now remember. So Ramachandra, what are we doing? Ramachandra?
Hari Bol, Jai Prabhu, Ramachandra Prabhu. Hari Bol.
Yes. So where's Ramachandra?
I'll text him, Prabhu. I'll just text him and
Oh,
contact
he's
him. Right?
muted.
Yeah, I'll text him.
Okay, so I'm back. I had a call that someone wanted to talk to me, so I had to mute myself. So I'm back.
Okay. So your ball is in your court.
Well, the ball is in everyone's court. So let's see. There's some comments here from the devotees.
This is the best.
Okay. Okay, it's talking about Person Bhagavata. Bhakti Siddhanta Vaibhav, written by Bhakti Vikas Swami, is authorized, 3 volumes big. Gentle reminder for what's accessible biography now.
Go ahead.
I think he's looking to learn about the acharyas. If you want to learn about the acharyas, why don't you hear from Srila Prabhupada? I mean, you can read, Narayan Prabhu says, you can read the Lilamrita. I mean, it's no, but for his preference, it's not up to his standard.
Yeah,
Narayan Prabhu.
well, I have a pretty esoteric standard because I spent my whole life studying English literature before I became a devotee.
Yes, yes.
But Rupa Manjari also had a very nice suggestion.
Okay, go ahead, Prabhu. Rupa?
I was suggesting that that he read the memories transcriptions from Siddhanta Prabhu, Bhakti Siddhanta, or Siddhanta Das.
Yeah, as well as you can get the tapes or CDs and play the memories of Srila Prabhupada. Many of them are extremely good.
Okay. All right. So we have answered his question. Now we're going to move on to the document that we have about an hour worth of time left. So we're going to go to the document, and I'll first display the direction of management for people who are seeing it online. Okay. So they'll know what we're talking about, what document here. I posted the link in the chat, so the devotees can click on the link, and then they can see it. Okay. The direction of management, and here's the direction of management. Here's the direction of management written by Srila Prabhupada, and it was signed and dated. When was this? Let's go to the exact date. It was July 28, 1970. You can see Srila Prabhupada's signature is right here. July 28, 1970. And this is the documents that we're going to have a discussion about. So here's the link. You can see here, if anyone wants to get it. All right. And here is the document. So now, Narayan Prabhu, we're going to briefly discuss this, or, some points here. and anyone can
Well-
ask questions online and on Facebook and on YouTube. They can post it in the chat and I'll read it out.
Okay.
Can everyone see it? Questions and answers pertaining to the 1970 Iskcon direction of management.
Oh, that one.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, well, someone could read it. Someone could read it.
For Manjari Prabhu, is it okay if you can read it?
Sure.
Try.
A, is the direction of management a legitimate direct order by Srila Prabhupada and as such not subject to any type of disobedience by his initiated disciples? Number 1, yes, all direct orders by Srila Prabhupada actually descend from Krishna Loka. There is no question of mistake or human error. The direct written order of the bona fide spiritual master who is in his eternal rasa with Krishna must be considered to be as infallible as Lord Krishna himself. 2, no disciple can be considered to be infallible and must be always 100% obedient to the direct order of the bona fide spiritual master, whether it is written or spoken by the descended spiritual master. Can you bring it up? 3, the principle of disciple to spiritual master is accept everything written or spoken or written by the spiritual master and reject nothing that has been spoken or written by the bona fide spiritual master, who, due to his being an Uttama Adhikari, is factually non-different than Krishna.
Okay, so this first 3 points here. Anyone has any comments or questions either online and on YouTube? So now, Narayan Prabhu, you asked a question here in A, and then you answer it in 3 points. Someone would answer something like this, right? Is that what you're doing here?
Excuse me?
No, you asked this question here. Is the direction of management a legitimate direct order by Srila Prabhupada and as such not subjected to any disobedience by his initiated disciples?
Yes.
Then you give a yes, and then you give a no.
Well, meaning what?
Meaning that Srila Prabhupada's order must be followed because of this reason. Number 1 here. Because he is infallible as Lord Krishna himself, bona fide spiritual master, and him being a resident of Krishna Loka.
Yeah, what is this? Which document is this?
This is the one that you sent today.
No, but what's it called?
It is called, right here, Questions and Answers Pertaining to the 1970 Iskcon Direction of Management.
Got it.
So
just work with this.
okay, so is the direction of management a legitimate direct order by Srila Prabhupada and as such not subjected to any type of disobedience by his initiated disciples? So presently, the direction of management is not being followed in Srila Prabhupada's society, which he incorporated, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And that means, no, they're taking the direction of management to be some kind of document that Srila Prabhupada never implemented. Or
Well,
he didn't want it to be implemented.
They knew that he had implemented it because their names were on it.
Yes, right here.
Yes, essentially, they were listening to Prabhupada. They showed the direction of management to people like Akshaya Rishi, who was working for a very prominent accounting firm, so much so that he was working for the royalty of Iran during the time of the Shah of Iran, before the revolution and the Ayatollahs took over. And what happened is that he was saying, no, you can't have it like this. You need to centralize Iskcon and make it into a corporation. with control, with the GBC having control over all the temples permanently, not just sometimes, you know. And Prabhupada made it clear he didn't want a Catholic church-style hierarchy. He wanted a, what I jokingly call a lowerarchy, where the power rests in the individual. So, and that the GBC would be like senators, in the United States senators, meaning that they're elected for 3 years, and so senators were elected for 4 years. They'd only be elected for 3 years, and then they could be either re-elected, as senators can be, or replaced. But in any event, their job would not be to overlord the temples, but their job would be to represent the interests and needs of the temples, particularly in how to develop their temple, expand their temple, and use the membership. Supposing you have a temple and you start out with 5 people, and when you are good at it, you end up with 15 people in the temple. So then what are you going to do with those extra people? Well, after they've been there for a while, you can send them out to open more temples, right?
Right.
That's what we used to do in the good old days.
Right.
So generally speaking, less than a year, 6 months or a year, a person was rapidly learning how to play mridanga, Prabhupada style, chant kirtan, Prabhupada style, play kartals, Prabhupada style, and melodies, Prabhupada's melodies. And then they learn how to play harmonium, they learn how to play mridanga, they learn how to play kartals, they learn how to cook the basic dishes, sort of like what Polika described. And after 6 months or so, they would sort of look at him and say, what are you doing still here in the temple? Why don't you go out and open a temple?
Okay.
In those days, it wasn't very hard. The minimum wage was $1.15 an hour at that time. People with skills that now make $20 an hour made like $3 an hour. But you could rent a storefront for $50 a month, and or $50 to $75 a month for an old storefront. And that's what we did. We went to open rented storefronts. I remember before I became a devotee, I had an apartment that was $75 a month. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, very beautiful upper story Victorian place. So you could do it, but even now you can get you can get storefronts, you can get places, and make temples there if you want. But nobody will give the authority to do that. They all want the control.
Okay.
For years, we had temple on La Brea Avenue, and a nice temple. And sometimes we'd have like 25 devotees living there, but no Iskcon devotees would ever go there, and they were forbidden to go there.
So Iskcon management was forbidding people to attend a Iskcon program, basically.
Precisely, because we didn't preach anything that wasn't purely from Prabhupada's books, original books at that. And then we moved our temple to Jefferson Boulevard. It was a bigger place, had a very, very nice temple room. We'd invite people, maybe 30, 40 people once a month over for a program. And because we're working very hard, we're busy. And so we create the program, cook prasad, and have wonderful kirtans and classes. Nobody would come. And when we had that first Istagosthi at the Masonic Hall, Savas, the temple president, created a whole program at the temple to occupy devotees so they wouldn't come to our program, which was simply Istagosthi. It means you could talk the way we do here on the Zoom call.
So the Iskcon, so-called mainstream Iskcon managers and GBC, they're scared of devotees having independent meetings and preaching programs. They take it as a threat to their control and power and money and whatever else they want from controlling people.
Exactly.
Exactly.
They didn't want more temples to open. Los Angeles has, Rupa Manjari, how many people live in Los Angeles?
How many?
8 million or 8 or 10 million?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. With all those people, there's only one Krishna temple in Los Angeles. If its direction of management had been going ahead, we would have had probably minimum 200 or 300 temples, maybe several thousand temples. I believe that there's 14,000 Catholic churches in Los Angeles. Not all of them big, but big enough to accommodate the fact that there are millions of Catholics. It's so many Mexicans and whatnot, people from Spanish-speaking countries, they're all Catholics.
So the aim of this discussion here is to get people to understand the direction of management and what Prabhupada wanted from the devotees and demand that from the present day Iskcon GBC and management to follow the direction of management.
Yeah.
And
well, the GBC is the opposite of elected now. The GBC appoint each other, and they've made it into an international corporation. So we're not going to get anywhere with the GBC. But if we were able to shake the faith of the congregation members, and more particularly the people, including and particularly the Hindu people that want to become involved with Iskcon, they could say, well, hey, why don't we? If we join, we want voting rights. Why can't we vote? So the Hindus wouldn't just be donors and people are cooking the Sunday feast for free, but it would be they would be legitimate members of the Iskcon temple, and they would have rights.
Jai. So, anyone have any questions, discussions, points they want to make, or we'll continue the discussion? Mohit, anything? Mahaprabhu? Is Mahaprabhu lost? Okay.
He's probably muted.
Okay.
Nothing much, Haribol.
How come? No, nothing much. This is the time to ask your questions. Get the mind going.
Haribol, Mahaprabhu is driving.
Okay.
Haribol, Prabhuji.
All right. Mahaprabhu in the house. Okay.
Haribol.
He's
Jai.
driving his car, and when he gets home, he'll be driving us mad.
We got to end it before Mahaprabhu reaches
Mahaprabhu's a
home.
valuable guy.
I said, we got to end it before Mahaprabhu reaches home.
Then he'll think that you've been very harsh with him, guys.
Okay. So we'll continue the reading. Huh?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, I'll read this part. B. Who is the author of the direction of management? Number one, Lord Krishna, via his pure devotee, is the author of the direction of management, and as such, the direction of management must be considered to be of equal authority as Krishna in his original form, as well as the authority of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Yuga avatar for our present age, for our present golden age of Kali. Okay, C. What is the authority of the spiritual master who is recognized Uttam Adhikari as well as a bona fide Sampradaya Acharya? Number one, in all respects, he is non-different from Krishna. There is no scope for doubting the authority of the Uttam Adhikari spiritual master. Two, such spiritual master is very rare and manifests only on the direct order of Lord Krishna. Three, when one considers the relationship between the spiritual master and Krishna without the interference of bodily consideration, the apparently blind wall between the disciple, the Uttam Adhikari spiritual master vanishes, and the actual relationship between three becomes absolutely and transparently clear. All right.
Haribol, I want to add something in this. If someone is an Uttam Adhikari, I mean, Krishna is already in his mind, right? He's guiding him, right? It's not coming from the spiritual master, it's coming directly from the source, right? Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what Prabhupada used to say. Haven't done anything. That's all Krishna has dictated me, and I'm just speaking his words, right?
Precisely.
And can Narayan Prabhu tell me instant when Prabhupada said that that Narad Muni was sitting besides, can that was sitting in the temple and that all? Can you
Yes.
just explain? Yeah, Haribol, please.
Yeah, well, he said that the demigods, Brahma, everyone, they're capable. We have a, if I want to go to New York, it's a big deal. I have to go to such expense and difficulty to go. So we can't imagine that the demigods like Brahma is on his planet. For him, it's very easy to show up in a temple in Los Angeles or in India or Jaipur.
Yes, Haribol. Yeah. Yes.
He just, boom, he can do it because he is the creator of the universe. He has they all have the mystical power of teleportation. So
Yeah.
it's not like humans who have to drag their bodies. They can just go by the intention of going.
So can you dictate the pastime which were happened right there? That between devotees, that Narad Muni was sitting and Prabhupada was dancing in the night. That he saw Krishna, he was with Krishna. Can you just depict it again if you have any, if you know it?
Oh, what? I'm not to recall.
Ramachandra Prabhu, can you just tell him what I'm trying to tell him?
Oh, he's asking for a specific incident that Prabhupada talks about where Prabhupada was saying, oh, Narada Muni is here, can't you see? So I'm not too familiar with that pastime. Someone was narrating that pastime through, I think, in one of the memories or something. So, I mean.
One more thing, once Prabhupada said that I was dancing in the night and Krishna came in his mind and he was dancing. Is that tactically, right?
Yeah, I've heard that. That's not one of the things that I experienced with Prabhupada. But I've heard stories like that. But when there was a temple in Santa Fe, Subal, who had the temple, was sort of freaking out because he was there by himself. And he said, I have the temple, I have kirtan all by myself, I have deity worship all by myself, prasadam all by myself. Nobody is coming. So what is the use of having kirtan if no one is taking part? Hoping that he would be recalled back to San Francisco. And Prabhupada said, no one is taking part. He said, you cannot see that Narada Muni, Brahma, the demigods, they're coming to hear you chant. How can you say no one is coming?
Haribol, Jai.
So it's to be understood. Then there's also the Gaur Arti, which was introduced in 1969, I believe. You know, Kiva Jaya Jaya Gora Chande Arati Ke Soba Jana Vitapa Gane Arati Ke Soba. And then it says, Kiva Dakshin Nitai Chan. Nitai is involved with the Artik in the temple. Nitai Chan, Koran, Brahma, the demigods led by Brahma are coming to hear that kirtan, the Artik in the temple. So that song was such an important song, and it describes clearly that the demigods come to hear the kirtan, and it's not like it's a big deal for them to do it. It doesn't have to pack their bags and take a plane. No, exactly. When the kirtan starts, they want to hear it. That's what it boils down to. When they want to hear it, then they're there.
Oh, okay.
However, not in the kirtan dancing around with the devotees, but in the atmosphere of the sound vibration as it rises from the mouths of the devotees in ecstatic chanting.
Oh, okay. Got it. Haribol, Jai.
So that's basically how it works.
All right. So let's continue the discussion then. All right. You have some questions, Prabhu? Mohit Prabhu, anything else?
No, Prabhu. I
No,
just
no,
wanted to hear that incident which Prabhupada was ecstatically dancing in the night, no? And this Narad Muni one. That's it, yeah.
I don't know that one. I haven't heard it.
Okay.
But there is an example in New Vrindavan in 1969, that Srila Prabhupada was upstairs and he'd been seeing devotees, and a devotee came up, a lady came up to see if Prabhupada wanted some like hot milk or something of that sort, you know? And she saw Prabhupada was there rolling on the ground. And so, oh no, Prabhupada's having a heart attack or a stroke or something. What's going on? She ran downstairs and got the temple people, you know, the hotshot big guys at the temple, to come up to deal with this emergency. They came up and Prabhupada was sitting there. Yes, what is it? Oh, are you okay? Oh yes, there's no problem. So they concluded that he was experiencing transcendental ecstasy, not illness.
Jai. Jai, Prabhupada. Jai. Be bold.
Okay, so there's some comments that I'd like to read from our chat on YouTube. So let's see. So I said we're talking about Srila Prabhupada's books being changed, etc. But then Aristo Prabhu, he's a constant viewer of our discussions. Then we shall fund this group through book sales and donor drive. Set a goal of $1 million and we can achieve the goal. From that, we can build a temple and Gurukula. And then Aristo Prabhu says, Krishna will guide with purity all devotees to realization of his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami's original goals.
Right.
Then Aristo says, Krishna consciousness is the answer to the world's miseries. Then Aristo Prabhu further says, thank you. My obeisances to you all. My obeisances to all of you here this evening. I am a novice devotee and am privileged to learn from all you. Hare Krishna. Then he says, I do not have Zoom. It doesn't work on my device. Then I said, no worries, you can ask questions here. Then Aristo Prabhu says on page 40 of Srila Prabhupada's book, Civilization and Transcendence, he says, yes, Guru is necessary. In the Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna and Arjuna were talking as friends, there was no conclusion. So Arjuna decided to accept Krishna as his Guru. Then I wrote, Aristo, yes, that is when the teachings began, when Arjuna accepted Krishna as his Guru. Then Aristo Prabhu says, find the verse in Bhagavad Gita, Krapanya Dosha. Then he says, excellent G. Then we were talking about the incorporation of Iskcon, was July 13, 1966. Then Aristo Prabhu says, so how can the GBC overtake all the finances and squash anyone who contests? Then Aristo Prabhu says, 34 temples in 4 years is a divine accomplishment. I said, indeed. Then the discussion goes on further. Unless there is subordinate documentation signed by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, then it is non-binding at the very least and fraudulent at worst. We must fund our own efforts led by Krishna and Srila Prabhupada's guidance that he set forth from day one.
What is that statement about fraud?
Oh, he's saying that about, where is this? Where was it?
It's right there in the middle.
This one? Okay.
Yeah.
Unless there is a subordinate documentation signed by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, then it is non-binding, at the very least, and fraudulent at worst. So I guess he's talking about the direction of management here. The direction of management is signed and approved by Srila Prabhupada. So it's not a fraudulent document or anything like that.
They're suggesting that the direction of management.
No.
is
He's just
fraudulent?
making a comment. He's not suggesting the direction of management.
Hold what is the substance of his comment?
I guess he was saying that if Prabhupada didn't sign something like the direction of management with what he wanted to be done, that would be considered fraud if we try to implement it in his institution.
I still don't get it.
Okay. So we must fund our own efforts led by Krishna and Srila Prabhupada guidance that he set forth from day one. Then he further comments, it appears that the GBC illegally usurped the bylaws set forth by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada from day one, July 13, 1966. Then he says, request 4506T from the IRS on the GBC to verify its authority and legitimacy to overtake Iskcon. There must be formal documents filed in public purview, otherwise it is not legal or legitimate.
Well, that would be filed by whom? The GBC or by Prabhupada?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe he can elaborate on this.
That would be a good idea, because the direction of management, as far as I can see, without having a political or sociological push behind me, but just as it stands for what it is a completely legal document. And from the devotional point of view, even more importantly, a demonstration of Srila Prabhupada's clear intent, and witnessed and signed, and with 12 people named that were present. I mean, it's pretty hard to get around it as his will or his desired way of running the movement. I don't see where the scope comes in from any other angle.
Try. Okay. Let's see. So I posted the link of the direction of management in the chat. So if anyone wants to see it, it's there. The facsimile copy of the direction of management.
Great.
Then Arishta Prabhu says, His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada was supremely intelligent spirit and would never forfeit the finances or future of Iskcon unless he was deceived under duress.
That's an interesting point, but Srila Prabhupada has a choice. When you are creating a group of people that are your disciples, they're doing wonderful work, opened 34 temples in 4 years, about almost exactly 4 years, and then they decide that they want to do it their way, not his way. What were his choices? He could kick them all out, but then he wouldn't have it in a movement anymore. He could keep them there and just have faith that somehow, or knowledge that somehow Krishna would rectify the situation in due time. And voila, here it is. 40 plus years later, we're doing it.
Right.
You can say, well, 40 years, that's a pretty long time, considering all of you guys are getting older now. And I would say it's not a very long time, considering we're working within the context of another 9,450 years of the golden age of Kali. All we need to do is get it set up and operating, and the GBCs will die off or will go away or something like that.
COVID is killing them.
If you take away, if you take away the GBC that are there now, then you've taken away the source of getting more gurus, because the GBC are not elected as they're supposed to be by the direction of management, then nominate and appoint gurus. If you take away the unelected GBC, 100 of them or how many there are, if you take them away, then there's no more gurus. Then we have to start rethinking everything, going back to the direction of management, and then manage everything as though Prabhupads were in charge, not the people that stole his movement.
Right.
Fortunately, unlike most thieves who who grab and run, the thieves that stole Iskcon kept it because it's a moneymaker. They're more like the mafia. You know, mafia takes over a pizza parlor in New York or something of that sort. The guy that owns it is locked up in the room in the back with a bandana over his mouth, with a bandage over his mouth to keep him from screaming. And they're running the whole thing, putting the money in the pocket. They take out loans to make the place go into bankruptcy, and they put the money in their pockets. And when things can't be pushed any further, they walk out the front door, and that's the end of it. That's what the mafia does. And this is sort of the way they did it. They just took over the Prabhupada's movement as though it were theirs. And Prabhupada had no way, without a brahmastra or something up like that, Prabhupada had no means, nor did he want a means of getting rid of them. Because he knew that if they kept on maintaining the Iskcon temples, even if there were fewer than there should have been, then it would have been okay. Because the temples remaining open, and they increasingly expand all over the world even now, not at the rate if the direction of management should have been there, the temple presidents would all be helping other temple presidents open more temples. But they didn't want that. They wanted money and power. So that's what they got. But it won't last forever. And it certainly won't last 9,500 years.
Yeah, it's already failing. Yes, the system which they have developed after the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada, and they got more and more control freak in nature. It's not lasting, and the whole thing is collapsing.
Exactly. And what is happening is they have actually consciously modeled. One of the Swamis was named Ramapad Swami, and his name, he goes by Romapad Swami, because he believes in the Catholic Church system of top-down government so much. Well, there's one little detail that's missing. The Catholic Church was established when the Roman Empire controlled the entirety of Europe and England and places like that. They controlled everything all over the place. Now they don't. Now the Catholic Church doesn't own any states in Europe, no Austria, no Germany, and they don't own Italy. And not only they don't own Italy, they don't even own Rome, but they're in Rome, right? Yeah, they're in a small part of Rome called Vatican City. And that's all that's left of the Catholic Church. And they still control the priesthood. But you can't start with that and make an Iskcon movement that will end up any better than they are. And as Ramachandra points out, they are, what are they? They are already failing because they are modeling themselves or imitating or aping a movement, a religious movement, politically religious movement, an empirical movement that is no longer empirical, has some territory. So that's where we're headed. So now's the right time for the direction of management. Joy?
So we got some more comments. We have 11 people watching on.
That's so wonderful.
Okay.
Could you please tell them before you do anything else? Narayana Das offers his humble obeisances to each and every one of them.
Okay, you just said it. So, and here there's a comment by Deborah. Hare Krishna Prabhus, this is extremely important information. Thank you very much for allowing all to hear. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.
What is he referring to? What we were talking about tonight?
Yes.
Aha, Rupa Manjari, what do you think?
Then Rob says, what is the goal of Iskcon? Then Rob B says, I feel the world is being misled due to not having leaders that are Krishna conscious. The only true way is in life is Krishna.
Jai.
And
well,
then
that's very good, because we might say the Muslims will never recognize Hindus as equals, because they created the word Hindu as a pickaninny inferior group. So to say Hindus want equal rights, it's like saying inferior people we made inferior at the time of the Mughals want equal rights. But if the Hindus go back to their original glorious designation as Sanatan Dharma, then by just the sound vibration of the powerful Sanskrit syllables, the Muslims will have to look up to the Sanatan Dharma. You can't look down on the sound vibration Sanatan Dharma. It can't be looked down on. But Hindu, you can look down on it. And that's why they created the word Hindu, because the Muslims didn't want the Hindus to be, the Indian Sanatan Dharmaists of the time didn't want them to have any respect. So they called them Hindus. Now it's time to reverse that trend. And I love the Hindu people. I love the people who are Hindus. But you can see in Bangladesh, it's not working out. They'll never get equal rights if their name is inferior to Muslim or Islam. It just won't happen. But their name, if they are Sanatan Dharma, their name will not be inferior. Muslim will be down. Sanatan Dharma will be
The Muslims can get out of the bodily conception of life and join the eternal religion of the soul.
And that's the literal meaning of the word Sanatan Dharma.
Yes, it has nothing to do with the bodily conception of what body you have taken birth in, what species, whatever. Doesn't matter. At least right now.
Or that you're worshiping the same goddess that with her trident stabs everybody that has even a small pain. We don't have pain except for Goddess Durga. That's her trident hitting us. Is her threefold miseries is her three-pronged trident.
Okay, so let's discuss a few more points.
To anyone. I'm trying to uplift. Let's uplift. Go ahead.
Yes. So let everyone join the Krishna consciousness movement and
We have 10
be
minutes.
happy.
No, we don't. We have 20 minutes. It's only 9:37.
We started at 9:45.
Actually, we have 45 to 50 minutes, but someone's sleep would get.
Oh, come on. Let's go to 10.
Okay, we got, I don't know what we want to do. Do we want to discuss more questions? Or do we want to continue with the reading of the paper?
Well, first questions.
Okay.
The question is asked. The person doesn't ask a question if he doesn't want an answer, or he doesn't make a comment if he doesn't want that comment to be heard. I mean, we're sitting in apartments. We can't be heard. We go in the Zoom call. The world can hear us. So let's hear more questions.
Okay. So we want to make the questions and answers very concise, meaning 2 or 3 minutes. We don't want to take 10, 20 minutes for one answer. So there is one question here. What about Madhu Pandit Prabhu, Akshaya Patra, Iskcon, Bangalore? Narayan Prabhu, can you answer that question? What about Madhu Pandit, Akshaya Patra, Iskcon, Bangalore? What about it?
He's following he uses the direction of management.
Okay.
He has GBCs in his little kingdom. It's not such a little kingdom. They're distributing more prasadam over India than is distributed by any group of people anywhere in the world. And because that prasadam being distributed, he's got Akshaya Patra kitchens. These Akshaya Patra kitchens are feeding kids that would ultimately have to stay home out of hunger, because they go to school in the morning, then they go home for lunch, and there's no lunch, and so they just stay there. But with the Akshaya Patra, they can stay at school. They have their own stainless steel thali. You get it heaped with wonderful prasad, and they stay the whole day, do well in school, and end up going to college. So that's Madhu Pandit. And he's doing that with the GBC, his own GBC. He's got quite a few temples, and every one of them votes for the GBC.
Okay. All right. So he asked another question. Is the Akshaya Patra based on His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada? So I guess he's saying it's the prasadam that he's distributing, or whatever he's doing based
First,
on
yes.
it is
First,
okay.
yes.
Okay.
I was there in January of 2016, and I stayed for a couple of months in Bangalore, and yes, his program is very much Prabhupada program, and his work is very, very good in terms of delivering Krishna consciousness as it is. And he is the world's biggest distributor. I have to go out for a moment. He's the world's biggest distributor of Prabhupada's original books.
Okay.
They sold millions of them.
All right. So there's another question here. Just 1 second here. Let me put it on the screen so people can see. There's a devotee that's, I guess, a Prabhupada disciple that's joining us on YouTube. So we'd like to thank them for watching, and they can join us in our Zoom program. We have the link in the description. We have the link in the description, which is the WhatsApp group where we have discussions and then question and answers and iṣṭa-goṣṭhīs and readings going on in that group. So Deborah Devadharna.
So one more thing for Madhubandha Das Prabhu.
Yes.
He's doing an incredible job of, providing people prasadam specifically in India, where they are malnourished, right? Kids are malnourished. They don't get breakfast in the morning, don't get lunch, proper lunch. So he's doing a seva there also, as well as providing prasadam. So that's the biggest thing anyone can ever do. Iskcon does it, but yeah, he's doing it basically on the rules and regulations which are followed by Prabhupada, right? Which Prabhupada wrote it there. And there's no guru issue ever in any of the temples which we go, right?
Prabhupada is the guru.
Yeah, Prabhupada is guru there. We get Diksha, or you can get Ashraya directly from Prabhupada, right? No one else.
All right. So there's another question by Deborah Prabhu. Yes, I'm talking about the status of the present day Iskcon. I was asked by my spiritual master to go to a temple. I live alone at home, but I am older now and cannot live in a temple. What should I do? What should you do? What was Prabhupada doing? He was preaching about Krishna consciousness. He was distributing books. He was giving devotees prasadam. He was talking about Krishna. And if you live at home, you can invite people. You can have
wouldn't
programs.
it help if we knew more about her? Is she sounds like she's initiated, but she's older than what? And does she live near a temple? Or, there's a million questions which immediately arise if you want to actually help her at all.
Yeah. So please get in contact with us. Our WhatsApp group link is there.
And elaborate, and we'll help better.
Yes. So if you're in Sacramento, you can visit me. If you're in Los Angeles, you can visit her, right?
But I don't know, where is she? In India, in Australia? Where is she?
Who knows? She has not mentioned where she is. Deborah Prabhu, if you can mention where
we
you're at.
We welcome her joining the conversation. And if we can possibly do so, we will help her, give her any guidance how to become Krishna conscious wherever she wants to be, whether it's in a temple or if it's in her house.
Right. So what should I do? Well, get in contact with us, and then we'll. Yeah,
And
she
also
says
she can get in contact with us personally too,
yes.
not just through the Zoom call.
Yeah. So she's in New York. Yes, I am initiated in New York. So she's in New York. So with the Zoom programs and the devotees all over the world, you can always be in contact with each other. So,
and we'll be glad to talk with her. We'd be glad to talk with her. Like, Ramachandra, you and I have talked, with people off the Zoom ones Zoom
Oh,
calls.
yes.
Making joint phone calls. We can talk to her, or she can join the Zoom call if she likes. You know, if she's welcome.
Try. So yeah,
And
that's an
if she's
invitation. We're actual
if she's-
persons. We're not robots, right?
If she's an initiated devotee, I don't know, is she initiated?
She says, yes, I'm initiated, and she's from New York. So
Okay, so that's fine. I'm sure that whoever initiated her will want her to have the best possible relationship with Srila Prabhupada that can be had. Because
Jai.
presumably he does too. I mean, there's no gurus that are floating around that don't have a relationship with Prabhupada in Iskcon. And therefore, I'm sure he'd be happy if she joins us and we can help her to get the upliftment that we're generating through what Prabhupada called Istagosthi,
Jai.
or being guided by Lord Krishna from within to speak on
Right.
matters concerning our heart.
Hari Bol Jai. Ramachandra Prabhu, our channel is by what name? What's the name? It's
Whose name?
channel name. What is the name? I subscribed it, but I couldn't search it.
My channel's name is Bhakta Singh, the Vedic student. Bhakta
Okay.
Singh. Yeah. Okay, so Deborah Prabhu, if you want to join, you're welcome to join. Call us, WhatsApp group. We have so many. And then we have this Bhakti Vedanta archives where we study Prabhupada's books, conversations, letters, and how we can improve ourselves and how we can help the society get on the right track. Okay, let's see if there's any more comments.
There should
All right.
be. We haven't done 6, that's for sure.
Okay, so we have more comments. Let's see. One more.
I really think that no matter how early we start, we should never end before 10 or we'll freak people out.
Yes, we'll go till 10 o'clock. So here it's saying there's a comment. Prabhu, I am a student going to Iskcon and Akshaya Patra temple both. I'm confused. Both of them criticize other, give some logic for their principles. What to do now? Please help me, Prabhu.
You
So
must be in Bangalore, huh?
no, I guess
Just
this.
follow Prabhupada's books, right?
Yeah, so there's
Just
two
follow
camps.
Prabhupada's books.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's two camps. There's one camp that is the Iskcon, which is edited books Iskcon, and the other Iskcon is Iskcon Bangalore, which they promote original books, and they both criticize each other. They say one, I'm bona fide, the other guy is saying I'm bona fide, you should not go there. So he is confused. They say both of them criticize each other, give sound logic for their principles. What to do now? Please help me, Prabhu.
Bro,
Well,
it should come from his heart, right? Just read Prabhupada's books and it would come from your heart. You'll get to know the reality. That's it. That's the main preaching.
that's exactly what I was going to say, and you said it
Right.
first.
Jai,
Wonderful.
Jai.
Yeah, that was perfect, yes. Let Krishna guide you from within.
Yeah.
But to be guided with it, informed the guidance means read Prabhupada's books and then be guided from within.
Sure.
That will give you the right conclusion. So that was perfect, Mahi.
Thank you very much, Haribol. All your blessings.
Blessing is there.
And then Deborah Prabhu is saying, I accept your invitation, Prabhus. Hare Krishna. All right. So we'll see you in our WhatsApp group, or kindly give us a call, give us a message. My email is posted in the chat, so you can email us too if you don't want to type your contact information in the chat, which is public. Then Rob is asking a question. He is also one of our frequent viewers and he's always commenting on our videos. He asks a very simple question. What is Maya and how to deal with it? Who wants to answer that question? Or make a point. What is Maya? Rob, you're asking, what is Maya? So we'll type your question in our software and see what kind of answers we get. Hold on one second.
Prabhupada refers to Maya as that which is not.
Software.
All right. We're gonna. All right. So this is coming from what book? This is coming from The Way of Knowing God, God and the Law of Karma. So in this paragraph, you must know two things: what is Maya illusion and what is Krishna. Then your knowledge is perfect. Of course, Krishna is so nice that if somehow or other fully surrendered to him, all your searching for knowledge will be finished. Not only will you know what Krishna is, but you will automatically learn what Maya is. Krishna will give you intelligence from within. There you go. Krishna will give you intelligence from within.
Yes. And what intelligence from within means Paramatma.
Right. And then Rob's question was, this is from 1968. This is a lecture. A woman devotee asks a question: what is Maya? I know it's attractive. Srila Prabhupada says, Maya means which drags you from Krishna. That is Maya. What is Maya? Maya means which drags you from Krishna. That is Maya.
Well, we've just experienced that in Bangladesh, correct? They were worshiping Maya. Durga, Maya, Durga, Kali, they're all the same Shakti. So they were worshiping Maya, and look what happened.
Maya handled them.
Very properly.
If they had been chanting Hare Krishna, when the temple was attacked, they could have been chanting to Lord Nrsimhadev. I have never had an instance where Lord Nrsimhadev did not immediately offer protection. I recommend this to anybody. If you don't know the mantra, download it. Javakara Kamala Bari Nakam Advuta Shringham Dalita Hiranya Kashipu Dagnabringham Keshavajita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagaji Shahari Jaya Jagaji Shahari. I've chanted like that into the face of a man standing 2 feet away holding a loaded gun at me. And do you know what he did? He kept on trying to tell me, give me your car keys, you know. And I didn't answer. I just kept chanting. Give me your, I just had the car keys in my hand. Just keep chanting. I kept chanting. And then I looked at him. And then all of a sudden he started giggling, put his gun back in his pouch, his bag, and said, I was just kidding. And he ran as fast as he could down the street. So that's what happens, and it happens a lot. So if you ever have any attack, chant. So when the Krishna temple was attacked, instead of fighting them, they should have simply chanted, I swear, chant to the heart of your aggressor, he cannot go further. If you have strength, if you're afraid and you think it won't work, then it won't work. But if you chant straight into the heart of your aggressor, yes.
All right. So, and then what does Rob is asking? What does he ask? How to deal with Maya? If you're forgetful of Krishna, then you're in Maya. Remember Krishna.
Of course. Yeah. Simple.
And the beautiful thing is, you don't have to go very far to remember Krishna. You don't have to even go to a temple. Krishna's in the heart of every single jiva, even ants, even bugs, even germs. Paramatma and Krishna are there together. Paramatma and the jiva are there together. Right?
Just only Naam will do for you. Just Naam. Only name. Yeah.
So if you take shelter of Krishna's holy name or chant the Lord Nrsimhadev, Maya cannot exist.
Right.
Bye.
Very good.
I guess time Prabhu Mataji would get
We still have 6 minutes, I think. Okay.
Yeah.
So we'd like to thank all the devotees for watching. Our audience is growing online and on Facebook and on YouTube. So anyone who's watching this last part, you're welcome to join our iṣṭa-goṣṭhī discussion group. Just join the WhatsApp group and the link is there. And you can get personally in contact with all the devotees here. Narayan Prabhu, Rupa Manjari Prabhu, Mohit Prabhu, and others, including myself. So we're based, Mohit Prabhu is in India, Rupa Manjari Prabhu is in Los Angeles, Narayan Prabhu is Los Angeles, I'm in Sacramento. We have these meetings every Wednesdays, Saturdays, and Sundays. We start about 8 o'clock California time. So we have devotees from all over the world joining and watching.
Indian time it's around 8:37 a.m.
Okay.
in the morning.
Jai, Mohit Prabhu is in India. Mohit Prabhu, what part of India you're from?
Jaipur, Rajasthan, bro.
Oh, Rajasthan. Okay, yeah.
He's still from Jaipur.
Jai.
Do you go to the Govindadev temple?
Yeah, bro. Yesterday only I went. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hi.
it's amazing. You know those pictures of Srila Prabhupada sitting in a big red Vyasasan?
Yeah. I have those. Yeah, I remember. Seen it. Yeah.
Shama Sundar, who carved the deities in San Francisco, just after I took initiation, he showed me a black and white picture of a seat, a beautiful seat with railing and lion feet and everything like that, archback and umbrella. He said we should someday make this like just for Prabhupada. So the next year I made one like that for Prabhupada. After that I made the big one that was in so many photographs with the purple border around the edge, sometimes gold or purple border, but red seat. So I was in the city palace, going through the whole city palace. And I went through and I came into a room missing one wall. I couldn't believe it. You know, the city palace, the wall was missing. Beautiful. The whole thing was exquisite. And I said, why is the wall missing? So I went into the middle of the room and looked towards the missing part. I looked across and there was a long, skinny little lake with flowers, and Govindadev was looking.
Yeah.
I said, Govindadev's looking into there. There's no wall. Where is Govindadev looking? So I turned around and I nearly fainted. There was a hammered silver ripose, it's called, you know, the design hammered inside, asana. It was actually a howdah, you know, to put on an elephant, but when it's not on the elephant, it can be used as a throne. There it was with the hand railing, the arch, the umbrella. That was the picture that Shama Sundar showed me. That was the. I looked at it and I said, that's amazing, because the picture had been photographed probably in 1860, 70, like that, you know, that long ago. I looked at it, then I looked at the deities, then I looked at the seat. I said, there he is, probably Man Singh, right, sitting on there, looking across at the deity, saying, you are the king of the universe. I am the king of Jaipur. I will sit here and look at you, and you can stand there and look at me.
Jai. Jai.
In any event, that was just so mind-boggling. That actual same throne. And when I made the Vyasasan for Prabhupada in 1969, and he first sat on it in San Francisco. Am I taking your time up? But
no, bro. I was just saying that was Prabhupada's kripa on you that you can come to the city palace. That's all Prabhupada's mercy. No?
Yeah, I'm sure he had been there, but he first sat in the Vyasasan. He was sitting there, and it was like on a small stage. And it was a church where we had the temple, and he was on the small stage where the church stuff goes. It was Baptist. And I was standing next to him, like he was sitting facing out, and I was sitting on the left hand to his right hand side, looking at him. And he came in and he sat down on the Vyasasan. And he sat there. And he said to me, well, it actually shattered my heart. He said, I cannot accept this, he said.
Hari Bol
Prabhupada,
Jai.
Prabhupada said, I cannot accept this. It is a throne for the king. But
Okay.
then tears shot out of his eyes like projectiles. And he looked straight ahead, not at me, thank God. He looked straight ahead and said, but for the sake of my spiritual master, I will accept it. So that's the
Yeah.
seat in which he was photographed in all the major photographs that were ever taken of him before he went to other countries, you know.
Jai, very good. We're right on time, 10 o'clock. So thank you to all the
No more-
devotees for participating online.
No more questions?
No more questions. Just checked.
Jai, well, Saturday is coming up.
Yes.
And if possible, that lady can call us in between if she wants.
Yes. So this is an invitation to anyone. My email is posted in the chat, so they can contact me or join the group or send me a personal message, whatever. We're here to communicate with anyone and everyone that would want to communicate with us. Right?
That's wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Just for iṣṭa-goṣṭhī, for
Yeah.
Krishna consciousness, nothing else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. So read Prabhupada's books, hear Prabhupada's audios, join the Istagosthi, chant Hare Krishna, and be happy, I guess.
And why
It's a
not?
mantra, formula.
So-
Yeah.
So, Ramachandra, would you say that even though it was a bit choppy, that description of the direction of management was well received?
Yeah, I think we can discuss more because we had many comments and questions today, so we couldn't go over the whole document, but we will be going over the documents and everything
Yes.
that.
But that's only 1 out of 3 that I've completed, and there's more to go.
Jai. So yes, please keep
Still
sending
be on
and
the
we'll keep
website.
discussing. Yes, yes. Jai.
Okay. Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thanks to all the devotees for watching online and on YouTube and Facebook. We'd like for you to participate on Zoom also. The link is posted in the description. Please join the WhatsApp group, and then our links are posted there. Our contact information is there. And then we'll take it from there.
Jai. Hare Krishna. Glories to Prabhupada.
Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
God bless Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Jai. Rupam and Joy. So I feel a little better now that people like to